So welcome back, guys. Today we are joined by Brendan, who is the founder of a company called Ideally, which is doing some really exciting stuff with research. So welcome, Brendan. Why don't you start by telling us just a little bit about Ideally and the problem that you guys solve?
Sure. Hi. Ideally, is maybe 2 years old. We were formed out of an incubator that had a deep industry experience in consumer research. So they work in an agency environment. Research projects often involve a lot of specialist support and designing the research and then and consolidating the feedback and producing research reports. So what we're doing with AI is basically taking the expert process from the researcher and productizing it into our solution. So we're providing what might have been a 4-week research project and an overnight solution now. So we're getting real consumers to provide feedback for our customers, and then AI researcher produces the executive summaries that they can see in their inbox the next morning.
Yeah, really cool. And so Ideally's AI is built by researchers, right? Not engineers, which is kind of rare. So how does that change the quality of the insights that your clients get?
Well, I think it's important that control over the output of the AI is by a subject and an expert of the subject. So we've done quite a bit of work to make sure that the prompts that are used by our platform are written by researchers, and the engineers are not actually part of the process for that. It means that if a researcher wants to direct the output of the AI, they can modify the prompts, test the changes, and then push them into production and make them available to all of our users. So we're trying to get a very fast iterative improvement cycle on our output from AI as well.
Okay. And tell me, Brendan, was there like an aha moment or something when you first created Ideally, or did you experience this problem yourself? Or yeah.
I think the aha moment is around how AI is being sold to businesses at the moment, and there's an understanding that AI isn't always trusted. So ideally, was really trying to focus on a like for like solution where we were replacing a solution that people were familiar with in terms of the research reports, and we were delivering the research reports that they're familiar with just with AI. And so the clients are just looking at a new version, a new service, but the same result. And
Hmm.
all they have to do is click a button to get the same result. And so we've made AI just an easy choice for businesses to adopt because they're getting the same output they get today. It's just much faster and cheaper.
Right. And who do you find that you serve the best typically?
We've got a split of sort of CPG or FMCG clients and
Hmm.
consumer service brands like banks and telcos. So, on the FMCG side, we're getting clients testing new product ranges. They might have a new breakfast milk, or they could have a new corn chips or a new alcoholic beverage. They're They could be testing early concepts, exploring the idea of flavor, or they
Hmm.
could be testing the final product and just sort of getting awareness of the value props that the package is presenting and how well they're communicated and understood by the clients. And the other side of it, with consumer testing for telcos and services, they're testing their offerings, they're testing the descriptions of services to make sure the clients perceive the value that they're trying to show in whatever marketing campaign they're refining. In
Hmm.
both situations, we've got statistically significant, nationally representative surveys, so they're getting robust data.
Right. Got it. Okay. And then so what do you think has been the biggest challenge in getting non-researchers to actually trust and use that data? You see, trust is a big issue, right? So
Yeah, I think the trust that we see our clients struggling with is, they may have research specialists in their business
hmm.
conducting this research and then presenting their findings back to other roles in the organization that aren't necessarily research specialists. And there's a lot of fear that, a little bit of information is dangerous,
Hmm.
and that, an insight that's not statistically significant could be chosen and used by another member of the organization, and that would be inappropriate. So people are afraid of misuse of insights when they're not valid. And so what we see in that situation is insights managers trying to curate the messaging that they share internally so that I think it's a bit of a phobia that customers have. And we've really been quite surprised by the behavior, but it's been very consistent. All customers have this sort of reluctance to let other people in the organization interpret the data without a professional's opinion because the fear is that they'll just get the wrong end of the stick or something like that. So we've tried
Hmm.
to make sure that throughout our product, we're hiding information if the sample sizes that they're drilling down to get too small. And we're trying to make sure that anything that AI talks about has the level of significance that is suitable or shouldn't be mentioned. So we can't niche down to very obscure groups because it just becomes a bit too inaccurate.
Okay, got it. And So with ideally being so AI focused, and where do you see the AI trends going towards over the next couple of years, and how do you feel like you'll be able to integrate some of that future technology into ideally?
I think people are still a bit lazy with AI in terms of there are the power users who will interact with AI and they'll
Yeah.
ask AI to do things for them. I love doing that. But then, 70% of a company probably at this stage really don't build it into their routine. They don't have a pattern of using AI like that. And it's a barrier to adoption. Like they don't know what to ask the AI for in order to get help on their problem. So any products that sort of can productize the AI where it's no longer the user required to give an input, they just have to click a button. That's going to be a much easier sales tactic for SaaS businesses in the short term. I don't know how long it's going to last. It's kind of like the adoption curve. Once everyone starts talking to AI, then that click button necessity is going to maybe evaporate. But for businesses at the moment, I've heard some organizations rolling out Microsoft Copilot. That's, the ChatGPT internal licensed AI. Within a few weeks, very few members of the organization are actively using the product. Talking about 10% using AI across, an organization with hundreds of people. We're very much in the early adoption curve still, and how fast it'll change, I don't know. It'll probably change with the generations, I'm sure.
For sure. So it seems like what you guys are doing is trying to simplify everything right down so the user has to do as little input as possible, but they get the most output. Is that right?
Yeah, like they're not being asked to describe what the output should be. They've bought our
Yeah.
product because we give them the output they know, and they're just sort of saying, "This is what I have to test," and then we try and remove all the hurdles and just give them the report as fast as possible. We're also
Okay.
using the AI
Awesome.
now to sort of validate the questions that the user might be asking in the survey, or we're suggesting questions using AI to the user to our clients, so that they might get more insight from the research activity. So you can sort of
Hmm.
like chuck on a couple of extra questions about, how often do you do this or when do you like to do that, as well as having the AI validate that you haven't put any grammatical errors or double negative statements or just poor language. Because when you're spending thousands of dollars and getting hundreds of consumers to tell you something, you'd be surprised how often the question is miswritten. And then
Really?
the research is lost because it's not necessarily a spelling mistake, but it's miswritten. It's illogical. It doesn't get the right
Right.
outcome. And so having AI just sort of from a research perspective, make sure that there's a high quality to the questions being asked is quite valuable as well.
Okay. And so what do you think would be the most surprising thing that you've learned from ideally doing all of this research, whether it's for yourself or it's maybe for a client or something that you can share? What's like a crazy insight that would have never guessed that, but ideally has managed to pick it up?
I think that as a business, we're very motivated to extract more information from the data that we're already gathering. We want to enrich the reports with greater context. We've explored quite a lot of solutions in the space about how we could leverage this. And I think is what's become clear to us is that there's behavioral questions that we can be asking asking consumers that are ubiquitous across all of our clients. And behaviors are shared. And so it doesn't matter whether you're testing one product or another product, the behaviors around the user are the same. So we're going to invest in trying to understand user behavior and then use AI to scale that across all the tests that we're performing so that you can, like if you were to ask AI of 400 people, what are the places that people like to eat pizza? You could go out to the real world and ask that, but I think that what we're seeing is that AI will actually give you an accurate result for that with no time. So there's behavior. You couldn't ask a question like, how much do you like the pizza? Because that's too much of a human emotion. But in terms of
Right.
like, where do people eat pizza? The AI is going to figure that out for us pretty easily. So it's interesting where we can apply synthetic data and where we can't apply it, and we're honing in on a solution for that. It's looking good.
Right. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where an AI will be able to understand this human emotion and duplicate it in the synthetic data and run the tests it needs to and be able to give you an accurate result, or is that some like dystopian stuff that maybe
Like,
is
I think maybe you can train the AI, if you've got thousands of things that you've tested and, tens of thousands of people have told you what they like or don't like. And then you might be able to get a prediction from the AI. But there's so much unknown in greatness. People are actually looking for products that are innovative and that break a mold. And if you are innovative with your product, then maybe the AI is going to be even less able to predict success because the
Mm,
innovation doesn't have a pattern. So if you're relying on AI to tell you whether something's going to work and you're innovative, then it's going to maybe be. I I would always be and I kind of think about this way: if your problem that you're trying to answer is going to cost you $1 million, right? Like, should I make this new product and it's going to cost me $1 million to just make it and get it in the market?
Hmm.
I'm not going to be happy with the AI telling me whether or not it's going to be successful. I'm going to spend $10,000 validating that with real consumer research, because the the cost of the decision is so high that it's not worth shortchanging the investment and validation. Businesses aren't going to want to say, for a $1 million investment, let's spend $10 on the answer. They're going to say, let's make sure we've got real people, because it's too much money to take a gamble on.
Right. Yeah. And that's really good insight. I didn't think about it like that. Often you hear these innovators, they have created things that don't make any logical sense. I mean, Rory Sutherland famously talks about how the best selling beverage other than water and Coca-Cola over the last, 100 years has been Red Bull, but
Mm.
it doesn't make any logical sense because it's expensive as hell. It's comes in a tiny little can and it smells and tastes really weird. But for some reason, people really love it. And so if you were sitting down in a room researching logically, maybe even asking AI how to create something that compete against Coke, you probably would never come up with Red Bull.
Yes.
So yeah, cool.
Yeah, I
So
mean, innovation is sometimes uniquely, implicitly unique.
yeah,
And
exactly.
heard the founder, the CTO at OpenAI, talk about their bar for AI sort of general intelligence. And they said, at the time that Sir Isaac Newton existed and he created all these mathematical discoveries, he had read all the books in existence and then he created new knowledge. And at the moment, AI has read all the books in existence and it can tell us all about that and maybe demonstrate that it understands it, but it's not
Yeah.
creating new intelligence or new knowledge. So maybe for AI to be innovative, it needs to be able to create something which has never existed before and pass beyond where it is at the moment. As the OpenAI team are trying to measure this themselves.
Yeah, that'll be really exciting. So coming back to ideally, Brendan, what do you think have been some of the biggest challenges that maybe you've faced in scaling the business to where it is today? Because it sounds like you guys have had some crazy success, even maybe some awards that you've just been put up for, or can you tell us
Yeah,
about
the
that?
the New Zealand High Tech Awards were just the finalists were announced last night, and we had applied for the Innovative High Tech Software Solution category and the Emerging Company of the Year, which is really just a startup category. I think we've had some amazing growth in the last year. And I guess the biggest challenge that we probably identified is, and this won't be new to a lot of people, the enterprise sales cycle, working with
Mm,
procurement and annual billing. I mean, it's just tricky. It's not sexy, but it is one of those things that has caused us more headaches than we would wish.
hmm
But this being, to be honest, the last year or two with Ideally has been almost a dream for me to build a new tech stack and a whole new business from the ground up with no legacy systems or decisions. And considering the maturity of products and market now for scaling a business, a dream in comparison to maybe 15 years ago when people had, the billing systems for SaaS organizations was much harder and there wasn't as many integrations between solutions. Today, it's just like choose the best product for the problem and roll it out across your business and move on to something which is actually valuable to do.
Okay. And you mentioned sales cycles. How are you currently acquiring these clients? Like, how do they know that you guys exist?
Oh, we do. We try to do a bit of thought leadership and research and then communicate that through various channels. We run events across New Zealand and Melbourne, Sydney, and Auckland with our clients and prospective clients, talking about sort of topical research subjects and bringing in some experts from the industry to talk about it. I mean, we've had some great sales over the last 2 years, but I think every time we reach a new height, we're like, okay, now in order to be successful, we have to triple that. And so the problem just seems to get bigger and bigger, that the mountain gets steeper as we're going. The sales have been very good so far.
Awesome. And so what are some like big initiatives or maybe big goals? So you said you reach here and you maybe need to triple. Like, are you trying to triple this year,
Yeah, we are.
quadruple, 10x?
Yeah, we are trying to triple this year. It's really scaling the team is probably going to be the real challenge for the year. As we've got to increasing the headcount, we've got to make sure that people are experts in the sales in the process so that they can, convert at the same rate as existing team members.
Hmm.
close deals and win friends and influence people successfully. So scaling the team is going to be a real challenge for this year. And that comes down to training and picking the right people and having a good process and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And also fantastic book if nobody's read it. Cool. So if you could go back, right? You could go back to the beginning of Ideally. What are some things that you might change now that you have the gift of hindsight?
Not a lot, not a huge amount. I think that even the things that don't pan out are lessons you learn that are relevant at the time. So if we didn't have any setbacks, then we wouldn't have as much knowledge, and nothing's been material in terms of really holding us back. So we've been very fortunate. Certainly, from the engineering technology perspective, building a new solution from scratch with expert engineers, it's a real luxury today in in the world. It's been really good.
Hmm.
Professionally,
Awesome.
I mean, as a geek,
Yeah.
it's a luxury.
Well, speaking of your background as a CTO, you've had almost, it seems like 2 decades of experience. How have previous ventures maybe influenced the development of the technology and the direction of Ideally?
I think every SaaS business, the CTO gets involved in helping to scale the business itself. So that means working with the billing systems and the CRMs and whatever systems exist within the organization need to be integrated and reported, and those things can be messy and old and hard. I think having a really clear strategy on how you scale your business processes internally is one of the luxuries you get of being a new business.
Hmm.
And so, aside from the product you build for the customers, building the business correctly internally has been really there's a lot of potholes that have been avoided. I think in the first company we built our own billing system,
Hmm.
and there wasn't a product today like there weren't products available like there are today. Today you can use a system. We use ChargeBee, and their functionality um, is aligned with the accounting standards for subscription
Hmm.
revenue attribution.
Hmm.
So, you immediately get put onto railroads, and your ARR numbers are trusted by investors, and your business can just continue growing. Your developers don't have to worry
Right.
about systems. And that just didn't exist 15 years ago at all.
Mm-mm. Okay, and that makes a lot of sense. So as opposed to like building literally everything else around your main solution to have a growing business,
Yeah.
you can just focus on the business while all the other stuff is taken care of with all these other third parties that plug in solutions that are probably better than what you could do anyway.
Yeah, developers are going to be building something for us. Better that it's, product for the client than it's a billing system. We want to
Yeah.
keep focused on adding value to the customer rather than scaling the company.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, cool. So finally, Brendan, like a question that I really like to ask, because I'm always surprised at some of the responses, is let's say that you had a magic wand that you could wave over one big problem in Ideally and you could solve it just like that. What would that big problem be right now?
The flow of customer feedback to the product and engineering team. There's conversations in person between sales and customer success and research people and customers. There's emails, Slack channels, intercom through our product, just a plethora of channels that customers are communicating their issues to us.
Hmm.
AI is a disruptor in this space. It can filter the noise and deliver you the insights you're looking for. And we've been trialing a number of products to try and get this solution nailed. And yeah, I just think that having a seamless, curated set of insights that's delivered to your team that picks up on every piece of noise across your business that customers have is going to be a good unlock. And we haven't quite achieved it yet, but we're close to it.
Awesome. Well, look, I really appreciate the time and the insights today. If people are listening and they're thinking, this is exactly what I need, like where can they go and they can get maybe a demo of Ideally or maybe even connect with you?
You can email me, brendan@goideally.com, or book a demo on the website. We can give trials of the product so you can sort of see for yourself the results you'll get. And we've got a research and customer success team who will sort of run you through reports and help you with insights generation at the end of the process. So there's a lot of people here to help out with the process. It's, as much as we say it's all automated with AI, you know, people want to have confidence in using the platform. So we have that with our team as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think that's a really good attitude to have, and highly encourage everybody who's watching or listening to go and check out Ideally. I think they're doing some really exciting stuff. And as a marketer, I know that everything begins with the research. If you don't have research done, everything else falls apart and everything is messy. So research is really, really important.
Love it.
So that being said, thank you so much for your time and your insights again today, Brendan. And thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you in the next episode.